All right, it's time for a coffee talk. Today we've got Pip Carlson, Senior Sales Engineer at Arctic Wolf. He's a very experienced engineer, and I really enjoy getting a chance to spend some time with Pip, and he's helped us out a lot. So, Pip, thank you so much for doing a coffee talk with us here today.
Yeah, happy to
Um,
join.
yeah, awesome. All right, we're going to talk about Arctic Wolf has a few different products or solutions that we offer to credit unions. And today I thought there'd be a lot of value in speaking about the managed risk product or solution. And managed risk is really a vulnerability assessment service. And there's some unique characteristics about what Arctic Wolf does than some of the other legacy solutions or products out there. So first of all, Pip, why is vulnerability assessment important? Like when you're looking at a credit union environment, what is the value of vulnerability assessment? What is that?
Yeah, well, you can't fix what you don't know is broken, right? And same thing with vulnerabilities, right? If you don't know what you have out there, what your risk is, someone else is, and the other person, you probably don't want them to know it, right? So our managed risk vulnerability solution is all about, hey, what are the risks or vulnerabilities in my environment so that I know that they can be taken care of, they can be patched or whatever is necessary to resolve them. So this is all about being proactive, knowing what your risks are, and taking care of them.
So and vulnerabilities are really it's kind of different than like a Windows Server patch. Vulnerability could be like a firmware deficiency on a
Yep.
router, or
Could be a
on
lot.
servers
Yep.
we see this, right? So
Yeah, it could be a lot. Yep. It could be, I mean, most people, when they think of vulnerabilities, they think of a patch on a Windows server, which is certainly applicable, but really anything on the network, router, IoT devices, can have vulnerabilities on them. And, a lot of times it's just updating the software, sometimes making a configuration change or whatever it might be. But really, vulnerabilities can exist on anything that's online, not necessarily just your critical servers or host devices.
all right, so the reason that I like Arctic Wolf's vulnerability solution, there's a few things that you do really, really well. One is it's credentialed scanning. So this gets us that term we're hearing more and more. Basically, we get a more clear visibility into the actual scan, correct? I mean, a credential scan is better than a non-credentialed scan, correct?
Yes, basically a credentialed scan is just like it sounds, right? You put credentials in that give further access, which are credentials that potentially a bad actor might be able to obtain, right? So you want to say, hey, someone doesn't have credentials, let's see what the vulnerabilities are. But if they are able somehow, some way to get those, what additional vulnerabilities might they get access to? And that's why it's both. It's important to do both a non-credentialed scan and a credentialed scan as well to see what additional vulnerabilities a bad actor might be able to get if they can weasel their way into getting, let's say, an administrator's credentials.
Okay. And then the other thing we're seeing, Pip, from the sort of the credit union space is the ISOs, the information security officers. So these are the examiners that are coming in and doing the audit. It's
Mm-hmm.
not enough anymore to basically show them that you have a vulnerability scan. They want to see details now about that vulnerability assessment. They want to see when the vulnerability was first discovered in the environment. They want to see the work, basically the work logs on the remediation of that vulnerability. They want to
Yep.
see what is getting prioritized. So Arctic Wolf has a portal that manages all of this, and it's all part of the same solution, right? So it's all a web-based
Yep.
portal. What does that
Correct.
look like,
Yep.
and how does that work?
Yeah. So to your point, yeah, what we're seeing are definitely more requirements. It used to be you could do an annual or a regular external scan, print it out, and say, hey, here it is. We're definitely seeing the requirements ratchet up to more frequent scans. So what you can see, like through our portal, is you can go in, see what the vulnerability is, what the score is, how critical is it, what's affected, and when was that detected, right? There's a statistic out there somewhere that like 80% of serious breaches are caused by vulnerabilities that have existed for over 6 months, right? So the goal here is that vulnerabilities are always going to exist, but if you can say, hey, we know this one cropped up, we know that it's potentially going to be exploited, let's get ahead of that before it lingers in an environment for an extended period of time. So all of that is available on our portal, and you can make management plans where you say, okay, here's what we're going to focus on this week or this month, and Arctic Wolf can assist with that.
Yeah, so it's awesome because, again, you're actually showing your work papers, and I could do math, but I couldn't show.
You got to show your work. Yeah, I was the same way. Yeah,
I'm not good at that, but that's what the examiners are asking for now as well. So something else you kind of mentioned that's really important is the managed risk service is a continuous scan. So
that's correct.
As vulnerabilities are discovered and added to this database of known vulnerabilities, it's scanning the environment looking for them. Because that's the other deficiency we see is that, just even as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, we'd see a credit union that would do an annual or a quarterly scan. That's not good enough anymore. And even monthly is not good enough, right? So we've got to.
You got it. Yeah. Again, the longer a vulnerability exists, the higher the likelihood. So you're right. It's funny. I mean, yeah, I've been here for 6 years, and 6 years ago, people are like, yeah, we have some kind of vulnerability tool. To your point, we do. I think it runs every year or something. That just doesn't cut it anymore. You got to do it, pretty much on a continuous basis. That cat and mouse game is never going to end. Yeah. And yeah, so we are doing continuous scanning so that you're aware of things within days, not weeks, months, or hopefully not longer.
So the last little story I'm going to share, and I know we've talked about this before, was there's a well-known QSO that just in I think around like early December, there was a headline on CNN and Fox News and really everywhere, New York Times, 60 credit unions affected by a ransomware attack. And essentially going back and kind of doing the research and figuring out what happened, it was a known vulnerability called Citrix bleed, pretty common vulnerability. That vulnerability was published around October 15th, and the attack happened on November 16th. So 45 days. So again, that window between when the vulnerability is published and when it's exploited continues to shrink. Now, 45 days sounds like a long time to me, but with everything else that's going on in IT and just trying to run these shops, you got to get tighter than that. I mean, it's yep. As soon as it's published, it's not just critical vulnerabilities, but really all of them now, right? I mean, you're seeing that with the customers you're talking to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it doesn't, I mean, obviously some of these more critical vulnerabilities that make the news, you want to make sure those are patched, but sometimes it's smaller ones that you might not hear about as much. Those are the ones you have to worry about as well. So yeah, again, 45 days might sound like a long time, but in the vulnerability and exploit world, that's an eternity, right?
Yeah.
So being able to shorten that time as little as you can is absolutely critical.
Awesome. Pip, you're the best. Thanks for the coffee talks.
Thanks, Lee. Talk to you.
All right. Really appreciate your time, Pip. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.